Welcome to the SEPM's Distinguished Scientist Series. Today I'm speaking with Dr. Gabriela Mangano, who is the 2024 winner of the Honorary Membership Award, which acknowledges excellence in professional achievements and extraordinary service to the society. My name is Cameron Manchi. I'm a research scientist at Texas A&M University, working on carbonate diagenesis. Today I have the privilege of interviewing Dr. Mangano and discussing her career journey. So to dive right in 5 minutes or less, can you summarize your path to the geosciences?
Yes, well, first of all, thank you, Cameron, for your time and your patience. I know that I have been in the field for a long time, so thank you so much. And I'm not very good with time, I'll do my best, but essentially, I don't think it was very different from many other geoscientist careers or paths. I was a very curious child. I love to, collect shells in the shoreline. I use every opportunity to explore. My mother always says that I was a little bit of a free bird in the sense that I will explore, go on my own, and really, really love nature and that kind of thing. I think, the very early childhood was very important. My parents allowed me to do whatever I wanted to do and search for my own passions as a child. And then, of course, I was very, very lucky to enter the university during the return of the democracy to Argentina. And I had to choose what to study, and there were all these wonderful fields that I was interested, like astronomy, archaeology, and I ended up actually signing for chemistry. That was mostly I had a very good mentor in high school who was a chemistry teacher, but then I moved rapidly into geology. I met some fantastic professors and took some 100 level classes that actually changed my degree. So that's a good call for paying attention to these, introductory level courses that can be crucial in selecting your career path. I had some wonderful opportunities through those fantastic early years of my career. I got some, very good professors. I have to say, many of them returned to the university because of the end of the dictatorship, and it was a sort of a very joyful time. I was able to go to the High Andes and did my first licenciatura is the name, but it's like a master's there under superb geologists like Victor Ramos and Beatriz Aguirre Urreta, who was one of the first women professors. And then, from there, I follow up with a PhD in a very difficult time. This is time of hyperinflation. We moved to the north to be closer to the outcrops, and it's, starting this very interesting time of hitchhiking to the field, trying to get some possibilities. So that was a very interesting time. I got my degree. I studied a second career in philosophy. Then I moved to the US and did 3 postdocs there. And then, as you know, I increased my family. We were talking about kids the other, and I returned to Argentina, and then finally I settled in Canada, like around 20 years ago. It will be 20 years this September. So essentially, it was a little bit of a tortuous path, I will say, in some segments, but overall very rewarding, and it has some challenges, but I'm very happy with what my decisions, right? So there is not too much more other than say that, people do differences in people's lives. Like, I think, the parents have a very important role, but also your colleagues, as you cross through. In my case, I think, the first paper I sent, that was a crucial moment, because if I didn't have all that feedback, positive feedback from my other members in the community, maybe, I couldn't have decided to follow, this path. I don't know. I think, coming from a sort of a third or developing country, like a sort of a faraway position, some people through your career they made a big difference. So that's
Perfect.
overall.
Thank you. What are you most proud of in your career?
Well, today I'm very proud, like, not today, I'm saying right now, my major pride is my grad students. So that will be something that I'm really, really proud of. We, the kind of relationship that I have, it's very more personal too. Like, I think, as a supervisor, you have like a huge responsibility, to help in the development of your student. Try to promote him, giving as many opportunities, all those opportunities that I didn't have or that, I would like them to have. So I think, there is a huge role to play as, I would say, a supervisor and as a mentor, and I really enjoy, just today, I want to show you, I got a present from a former student. And it's a mate. It's a mate. It is a traditional, beverage from Argentina that you actually drink. And this is, for example, somebody that, a recent student who now got a job in the US, by the way, and just passed through. And I really think it's important to develop those relationships. So the day that they end as students, they became colleagues, they became friends in some cases. And of course, there is a variety of different interactions. Different people have different personalities and need different things. Some people are more distant, others allow you to participate more in their life. But overall, I would say that I'm very proud not only of their personal attributes, but their work as scientists, and also how they are resilient and really able to get jobs in because it's not easy, right? Like, as we know, but they are able to get jobs in the community. So very proud of my grads, very proud of being the product of a free public education. The University of Buenos Aires is completely free, and it opened the doors to people from very different economic sectors. It gives the opportunity of getting higher education to other people that in other countries, just not going far away, Canada, it's harder. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'd say it's far harder. I'm very proud of my children, like they are now 3 young adults, sort of. And I'm very proud of the fact that all through my career, I try to find the balance between family and work, enjoying both equally. Like, I really enjoy to be a mom, to have kids, to have like a sort of a, everybody, any human being would like to have like a sort of a personal little niche, but on the other hand, I enjoy enormously my work, my network of collaborators, my projects, and I was able, coming from, I don't want to say a disadvantage, but a sort of a far away, not central area, having been able to develop a career and participate in many of the big, some interesting question debates and so on. So, yes.
Thank you. Have you encountered any challenges or setbacks that turned out to be valuable experiences?
Yes, I could say many, like all through the path, as I told you, from my very early beginnings, there was some challenges, because although I'm coming from a family that I didn't have a lot of economic, let's say, because it's a typical middle class Argentinian family. So I didn't have a huge challenge. I was able to only study rather than study and work, for example, which I think it's a rare privilege these days. But you remember, I'm from a different generation at a time that women had very little room in leading positions, in both in academia and in the industry. And I do remember that. I remember, you know, ads in the newspaper, and we are talking about, you know, late 80s, early 90s, in which you will say, you know, women's, you know, do not pretend, or you know, like keep away or something like that, you know. So that was a challenge. And I think, you know, overall at the beginning, I had that kind of a scenario was more prevalent. I'm so super happy that this is not the scenario today. It has changed drastically for the good. So that's a very good thing, I could say, one very good positive thing. But I think that in a way that helped me to be more resilient and also to build up my confidence, you know, through the path. Because, you know, at the beginning, as I said, I had very good mentors in my career, but sometimes it was hard to get the space, you know, for position. Or for example, I wanted to go to Antarctica. That was in my top list. And University of Buenos Aires students typically do field work in Antarctica. They have like and they didn't accept women, you know, like they only have, so that kind of things, I think, you know, they made me more aware of the, you know, these differences. And in a way, it helped me to be more resilient and to think about how to fight for changing those things. Because, you know, that's the other point, right? Whenever you gain awareness, you have to sort of take action. Just say, this is not fine. Whatever position you have in a board, or you have to sort of speak out and say, we have to change this. So those were things that I would say were difficulties that, you know, I had to endure, and at the end, I think, you know, they helped me to be more resilient. The difficulties of when, you know, I had the children during my postdocs, again, it was not so common that they will give you a lot of time, and, you know, you were always a little bit awkward if you ask for particular accommodations, you know, so you will feel like, oh, I have to, you know, just show that I work hard, and that, you know, so I think those were things that also let me value that those moments are important, and you do a lot of sacrifices, and, you know, in a way, you know, that pay off along the way. But I think, you know, those are good things that we have changed in a way. So yes, you always learn from the negative, you know, things. I think that, you know, it's also a good exercise to try to find the good in the hardness, let's say, in the hardship.
Thank you for sharing your challenges and your experiences. This is actually a good segue in terms of resilience. If you could, so our next question, if you could go back in time, is there anything you would do differently?
That follows up a little bit, right? Yeah. I think, you know, that we were, you know, trying to develop this idea that, you know, sometimes you are in a situation and you do your best, you know, like this idea that you take the best out of hardship, let's say, and then out of the things. I think, you know, in retrospect, it's always a little tricky because, you know, in the context that I made decisions in the past, I think I did, you know, reasonable decisions, the best according to the parameters that I had. And in that context, you know, when I think about the past, I think, oh, I should have enjoyed more, you know, my babies, or, for example, some of the family situations and things. But of course, as I said, you know, it's a little tricky, because in that context, I did a pretty good, objectively, let's say, a pretty good use of the time in terms of balance. And I did the best I could, because I had to consider that I wanted to have a career in academia, and that required some sort of, rearrangements with the time, for example, or relocations of things. So I always have this sort of naive idea, oh, I should have taken a full year, out of which I didn't. However, you can see in my CV that there were times in which my balance was the family, because, it's true. You cannot be as productive sometimes, but overall, I would say, I'm happy with those decisions. And yes, you can always find things you will have, done slightly different, or but as I said, it's not a good, perspective, because it's tricky. And I'm happy with my decisions. If you want to know that, I'm happy with my decisions, both, in the more personal side. I have a fantastic husband, by the way, a geoscientist too, which is very supportive, have been supportive since we were 18. So, long life together, since I was a student, essentially a geology student. And with having a family, like a sort of a larger family, 3 kids, and with having a career in trace fossils, for example, like whatever my little patch is in the geosciences, because I really enjoy my colleagues and my community. So very happy with my elections, my selections, and my decisions.
Perfect. Well, thank you. So going back to you had touched on it a little bit with work-life balance. So how do you manage your time and maintain work-life balance? And you kind of already touched on it a little bit, but I guess kind of spinning it a little bit, do you have any recommendations? I know this is a very big topic these days, as we all try to balance work and life and everything else in between.
No, it's true. And I think, we are more aware also of this, the importance of balance, like in the past. I'm not saying it wasn't important. I'm saying we were less aware of the importance. So, I grew in this generation in which, you are supposed to be tough. You are supposed to work hard. You are supposed to prove all the time how good you are. Like it was like a permanent exam. And I have to say that was particularly with women. We have to show we are ready to go to the field. We have to show we can, we are flexible, adaptable. We, like that kind of thing. I think today, there is this understanding that, you cannot be a thriving professional in a way, or it's hard, without having some sort of a balance on your personal life. And on that front, I have to say, I'm the kind of person that on the micro scale, you will say I'm not always balanced. I do try to do exercise, like I'm very, prone to stop, walk a little bit, go to the garden if I'm at home, do something and return thinking, but do something, like in between, like not to be seated in front hours and hours and hours. So I try to cut and do that, just a few breathing or something. But also, I'm the kind of person that when there is something important I have to take care of, and this can be a paper I have to wrap up, or can be a personal, a family issue. Let's say my mom, something happening and I need to pay attention, focus on it, I will do it. I will find a way to say, okay, this is important right now. This is where my focus needs to be. And then, of course I do that. And then I think, okay, now I have to, come back to the routine or what I was supposed. So I think that we shouldn't be too worried if on a daily basis, other than just care for your well-being. But I'm saying you're not as balanced you have to think in the big picture. Are you balanced in the long run? You know, because even in life, as we were saying, there are years in which, you know, family takes a fair amount of your time, you know, and it's fine. It's fine because, you know, that will counterbalance, you know, like you will have an opportunity to have other times, you know, in which you can do more things because, you know, this is not as a pressing issue. So again, it's a lot of the learning. I did suffer, I have to say, during the postdoc. I had some moments in which I thought I wasn't doing such a good, you know, such a good job, if you want to say, and I had periods that it was sort of, I feel it like a huge challenge to be able to be productive, and at the same time, you know, you have babies and lots of things to do. But my advice to you and the younger generation is, don't be so worried if one day you can do nothing. You were there trying to, because maybe there was a more pressing issue, and if you take care of it, you know, tomorrow will be a full day for focusing on your research, for example. So, you know, give yourself that license. It can be actually very helpful, you know, and I have learned that also, and this is one of the good things about grad students. You learn a lot from your grad students, a lot, because that's another opportunity to you know, look at life of people and how you can have a positive effect also in saying, listen, you need to take a week, you need to take a month, you know, sometimes it's needed. There is something happens and you need to focus on, you have to sort of, you know, I'm the one that will give that room, you know, if I think there is a good cause, and that can help that person to then be a good scientist.
Thank you. This is changing gears a little bit. So what unexpected skills have helped you to be essential at your job? Or what unexpected skills did you find very useful in your job? Something you did not anticipate would be an asset.
Yes, well, one that I'm very grateful to is that I have a second philosophy degree, and I was always interested in humanities in general, but I never thought that you know, that background will be so helpful in my work as a scientist. You know, I thought it was a sort of a hobby, you know, but through the years, I have to say that it has been my, I could say, number one asset, because it helps you to, you know, put things into context, be, you know, be able to do relevant questions, you know, sort of put the historical context as something important, you know, always know how this actually evolved through time, and that kind of perspective of, you know, you separate from your scientific work and sort of look at it in a very larger scale and within the discipline. That's very philosophical, and it's something that I got through my training. I think that will be my, you know, my number one asset, because in a way it also helped me not to be so naive, if you want to say, you know, because I was one of those that think, oh, science, you know, and, you know, we are scientists and we have objective data, and, you know, we do our, you know, we are so rational in how we do our choices, and, you know, how we proceed, you know, methodologically. And in a way it shows me too, you know, how subjectivity filters in many ways, and we need also to be aware of that as scientists, you know. So I think that I'm very grateful for that time that I devoted to that. That will be my number one asset. What other? Well, knowing some language, being able to read other languages. You know, I can read easily French and Italian. You know, I cannot read so well German. So I could have loved, this is a good advice, you know, languages are very useful, you know, to be able to access the literature, you know, in other places and not just, you know, our Anglo-Saxon, let's say, centered. So learn other languages, you know, and being able to, but that, I think it's another good asset. I don't know. Those will be some that just pop up.
Oh, that's perfect. I think that's extremely relevant, especially as, you know, we have more collaboration internationally and then, you know, in terms of the philosophy, thinking critically, especially when there's so much kind of misinformation out there. I mean, being able to think critically. And so I think those are extremely relevant, important skills that we need to kind of, other people should think about in the future.
Yep. You know,
And that's actually a perfect segue to our next topic, which is the future of geosciences. So in your opinion, how has the field of geoscience changed over the years, and how do you see geoscience and research evolving in the coming years?
Well, we talk a little bit about how it has changed, and we talk about how it has changed in a good way. You know, like what we were saying about, you know, more inclusivity, you know, like those are, you know, we can see those changes. We see it in our societies, we see it in our departments, you know, we see it in the industry, we see it everywhere. So there is, in fact, some very positive, good things to say in terms of change, you know, like in terms of the environment, the working environment, the professional environment. So the other very huge change that has happened is technology. You know, technology has opened the doors, as you were just mentioning, to this international network of collaborations, you know, and that is such a gift, because you can collaborate with people all over the world. You know, that was unthinkable when I started studying. You know, when I started studying, the internet didn't even exist. When I was writing my thesis, that was the first time I accessed, you know, my licenciatura, like my first degree. I accessed a computer. So, you know, it has changed dramatically. I would say, again, in a way for the good. As you said, together with these very positive changes, there is a lot of things going on in terms of misinformation, you know, that also are through the internet. So not everything is as positive, you know, but I think, you know, our critical skills and the fact of having also literature that is, you know, good literature, like that you can read and is reliable, trustable. That's a very, very important thing to keep in mind. And I think the younger generation should, in a way, make very good use of these new, you know, new changes. You know, like I think those. But on the other hand, talking about technology, which is a huge thing that has happened, we should not forget that reading and old-fashioned things, you know, sometimes to do things, you know, with your hand, drawings, maps, you know, rather than using technological tools, it's also an important skill, you know. So keeping in mind that these changes, you know, that we have to be aware of these changes, using in our benefit, but not lose some other skills that we used to have, right? So so that about how it has changed, I could say, like this exciting new world. And what was the second part of the question? Sorry. So how it has changed
and how do you see it evolving in the coming years?
Good. So I see that evolving on a way, in a very positive way, like as we said, we will have a more global community, if you want to say, and so on. But also, I think, we have to be careful in developing, other skills, as we were saying, like writing and reading. I have found that one of the major challenges is reading longer text, things that require your attention for more than just a couple of paragraphs, longer text, sometimes without the aid of a lot of, illustrations or things. So that's, for example, a skill that we used to have, because, textbooks were not so entertaining, and you needed to do that very hard work of the reading that in a way should be kept, because it develops something in your brain about how to connect things and do that long-term exercise. So I think those are things that we should change. I think that in the years to come, we have a huge challenge, that is communication. I think that that's one of the things I would like geoscience to focus more and more, as we need in our changing world. I think that's a very important thing that will happen. I think we have the capability to get a central role in communicating our science, help, in the crisis of our planet. I think that's a way that we will change too as a community, in finding better ways to communicate.
Absolutely, that's extremely relevant, and I mean, and especially with regards to communicating with politicians and major industries, businesses, and how, for instance, carbon footprint and how we as a society evolve. I think, yeah, communicating, geoscientists as a discipline need to be better at communicating. And this actually brings me to my next question. What do you think geoscientists are good at? Do you think geoscientists do a good job at outreach to non-geoscientists, and what can we do better?
Yes, I don't think, sincerely, that we do enough good job, like a good job at it. I really think it's, as you were saying, we have these multiple fronts to take care of, in terms of communication. We need to communicate to the government, to those who have created legislations and, the ones that are in charge of big decisions. But equally important, is to make our point to the public, to the common citizen, let's say, and have a conversation that is relevant to them. Find the right channel to communicate. Because, as we are geoscientists, we find many things, super exciting and important and so on. But what is important for the common citizen? And I think, there is a lot of room for improvement on that particular channel, in finding ways to communicate with our public, let's say, and explain how we can answer or help to resolve issues, for example, in our modern world, like climate change, like having a pertinent conversation about how geosciences, can play a role. So that's an important one, with the industry, and helping the industry to make wise decisions, sort of helping them to have the knowledge to understand things in the short term and things in the longer term. So I think that's another very important channel that we need to play a significant role. So lots of room. I don't want to say that everything is wrong, and because I think there are many good ways in which we communicate, and through technology we have found fantastic ways, to communicate some content, if you want to say, because today you can learn a lot about, I don't know, the Permian mass extinction just going through the internet, and you will find fantastic documentaries and classes and so on.
So with challenges in securing job opportunities, why should one consider a career in geosciences today?
Well, there are many challenges, and you're right. But, you know, if I follow my instinct, I will say that this is a fantastic pathway to follow, that, you know, it creates this awareness that we were talking about our environment, our planet, the uniqueness of the planet. And in that sense has a value in itself, you know, like in a very theoretical way, like if you really want to follow your passion, I would say there is a reward there. Having said that, I totally agree that in practicality, in practical terms, there is a major issue with jobs. And in my area, like I'm very aware of academia, there is less and less positions and the competition is brutal. So, you know, you have to sort of have a very clear goal and have the passion and the resilience to strive, let's say, to go through the process, which is far more difficult than at my time. So if in the past you have to do 2, 3 postdocs, sometimes now you have to do 4 or 5 postdocs, and you know, to really get a position and publishing and that kind of thing. So it is a sort of a rough, difficult challenge that for sure will require sacrifices. And I think, you know, my own story is a good example. Like I had to relocate how many times, you know, I have to move with my whole family how many times. So you have to have that element of understanding that either as in the academy or in the industry, you may be able to do those sacrifices to get a job. But having said that, the reward is huge, you know, in terms of satisfaction. It's a career that provides a lot of personal development opportunities, you know, as in terms of understanding more our planet, understanding more the role of societies and our activities as humans in the big picture. So it really does provide you like a lot of good things. Then the negative things that we are living right now, like with the loss of many jobs, you know, through the pandemic didn't help, the oil and gas industry has decreased drastically their intaking of new professionals, you know, for the area. But I think there will be new opportunities. It's a question of, you know, time, and it's not far away. So with the new the new energy sector developing, the area, like in my area, for example, for paleontologists, the area of sustainability, the area of conservation, those are areas that will have a huge intake of new professionals. All these areas that are interdisciplinary, you know, conservation paleobiology will be part of many geoscience departments. So I think there will be, you know, we have now new positions in critical minerals in almost every department in Canada. Like so, I think, you know, there is a changing landscape. It's a sort of, we are going through that change in landscape, you know. And my advice to you and to many other young professionals is, if you have the passion, you know, don't give up. Like work hard, you know, have clear goals and be prepared to do some, you know, serious decisions with your partner, you know, not alone, involving your family, you know, being able to do some difficult decisions. Develop your skills, do your very best to be your best, you know, in terms of all the things we were talking about, because communication will be number one, both, you know, for in written, let's say, and oral communications, for all that we have talked about, you know, for academics like myself, you need to write well, you need to be very good at communicating, you know, in written. But academics and people in the industry, they need to communicate in general, like, orally and in many multiple ways, be technologically, savvy, that's a very good skill. Being able to attend meetings, networking, that also involves communication skills. So I could say use every single opportunity, be very aware of opportunities and say, grab them, in a way. So that will be my advice. Don't give up. There is a very nice community waiting for you.
Perfect. Yes, perseverance and community. So this is an excellent conclusion to our interview. We want to thank you for the opportunity to have met with you today, and congratulations on being the 2024 winner of the SEPM Honorary Membership Award. I'd like to turn the floor back over to you if there's anything you'd like to close on or add.
Well, first, thank you, Cameron. It has been a pleasure to meet you through this opportunity, a new opportunity. And I would like to say that I'm very, very thankful to SEPM. It played a fundamental role all through my career. I became a member when I was an undergrad. I, grew up reading Spotlights and dreaming to publish in Palacios. And just to say that, it looks like a dream, but I not only was able to publish in Palacios, I was able to write my own Spotlight. I have been able to be the editor of Palacios. So it has, in a way, provided me so many opportunities to grow and to develop, my career all through the years. As an ethnologist, and I want to say that for publications, SEPM has fantastic publications. It's a unique resource. And when I was a student, my first trace fossil book was the short course on ethnology. So that very old 8-ish short course is excellent. It's still a good resource by Egdale, Bromley, and Pemberton. And I think, students should actually browse through that very good resource that, having access to those SEPM publications is really a treasure that should be treasured. So lots of thanks for this honorary award. I didn't expect it. I have enjoyed all my journey with SEPM, and I think one of the good messages, if I can communicate it to you, Cameron, is that it pays back to be part of professional societies like SEPM. Those little money that you invest is not the money, it's so much more that it brings you so much more in terms of a community, in terms of opportunities for field trips, for attendance to meetings, to so many other things. And so, an invitation to the younger generation to, be active members and join our professional societies. As I said, SEPM, but I will say also the Paleo Society, in which I have been in the board, IIS. All those societies actually provide, a very, very a huge variety of opportunities for young professionals. And I won't use more of your time.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for meeting with us today. And this concludes our interview. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.